Welcome back, everyone, to the 21st Century Men podcast. Today we're going deep, really deep into chapter 34 of the book. And, well, it's all about plant-based nutrition.
It's amazing, isn't it? All this advice about the best diet for men, but the truth is, it's a minefield out there. Low carb, veganism, you name it, everyone's got a different opinion.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, it's enough to make your head spin. That's exactly why this chapter, this whole deep dive we're doing, it's so crucial. We're sifting through all that noise, trying to figure out what the science, the real hardcore science, actually tells us about this whole plant-based thing.
Absolutely, and to guide us through this jungle, we've got Dr. Joel Kahn. He's not just some random guy with a blog. This guy's a cardiologist, been in the game for over 30 years.
Wow, 30 years. That's like serious experience.
Serious is an understatement. And what's really interesting is he's been a vegan since he was 18. So he's been walking the walk for a long time, and he's seen the connection between diet and heart health, both in his patients and in his own life.
That's incredible. And I think the core message of this chapter really hits home. The science is overwhelmingly in favor of plant-based nutrition for optimal health.
You got it. And as we go through this chapter, we're going to break down all the amazing benefits Dr. Kahn talks about, because I think it'll really open your eyes to just how powerful incorporating more plant-based foods can be for your overall well-being.
Okay, so right off the bat, this chapter tackles the elephant in the room. Conflicting nutrition advice. I mean, you've got Atkins, paleo, keto, carnivore, Mediterranean, DASAH.
Oh, and don't forget vegetarian and vegan. The list goes on and on.
It's a total food war out there.
Yeah.
But what I found really insightful is how Dr. Kahn brings in his own personal and professional experience to make sense of it all. He's been living a vegan lifestyle since he was a teenager, and then coupled with his 3 decades as a cardiologist.
He's got this unique perspective on the diet-heart link. This isn't just theoretical for him. He's seen it firsthand in his practice.
Exactly. And he makes this really powerful statement. He says he's literally witnessed conditions like atherosclerosis, which is the buildup of plaque in the arteries,
Yeah, the stuff that can lead to heart attacks and strokes.
along with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol problems, obesity, even psoriasis. He's seen these things reverse when people switch to a plant-based diet.
It's mind-blowing, right? And what's even more amazing is that as these conditions improve, people often find they need less medication or even none at all.
That's huge. It's not just managing symptoms, it's potentially getting to the root cause of these diseases.
Now, to really drive home the benefits of plant-based eating, the chapter dives into 8 key advantages backed by science. And Dr. Kahn uses this really simple but clever analogy. Think of a bean chili versus a meat chili.
I like that. Simple, relatable.
Right. So he explains how plant-based nutrition has been shown to actually prevent and even reverse a whole bunch of serious health problems.
Okay, like what? Give us the rundown.
Well, we're talking heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers like prostate cancer, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, high blood pressure,
Why?
cholesterol.
And don't forget erectile dysfunction.
That's right, even that.
Even-
It really covers a lot of ground in terms of improving overall health.
And it's not just vague claims. He backs it up with real studies.
Yeah.
Like there's this Finnish study he mentions that followed over 2,000 men for 19 years.
19 years. That's commitment to research right there.
Tell me about it. But the results were pretty amazing. They found that simply by replacing just 1% of calories from animal protein with plant protein, these men had an 18% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Just 1%. That's incredible.
This shows you the power of making even small dietary changes over time.
And the chapter then moves on to talk about liver disease, specifically non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NALD, which is becoming a major problem these days.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It's pretty scary.
And a Dutch study they mention, involving over 3,000 people, found that a higher intake of animal protein, especially from meat, was linked to a 50% higher risk of NAFLD.
50%. That's a significant jump.
It really highlights how much strain a high-meat diet can put on your liver.
Okay, so what else?
Well, the chapter goes on to discuss asthma and how eating processed red meat can worsen symptoms. There's this study where people who ate cured red meat more than 4 times a week had a 76% higher chance of having more severe asthma.
Wow, 76%. That's a lot. I mean, that's almost double the risk.
And when it comes to cancer, the findings are even more alarming. Dr. Kahn points to the World Health Organization's 2015 announcement, which declared processed red meat a carcinogen.
Wait, so that's stuff like bacon, sausage, dogs.
All of that, yeah. They found that it directly causes colorectal cancer.
That's a pretty serious statement.
It is.
Yeah.
And then there's another analysis of over 400 studies that found a 12% increased risk of colorectal cancer for every quarter pound of red and processed meat eaten per day.
So we're talking a clear link between meat consumption and cancer.
A very clear link. And on top of that, they found that eating more whole grains and vegetables actually decreased the risk.
It's like a double whammy. You're reducing your risk by cutting out the bad stuff and increasing it by eating more of the good stuff.
Absolutely. And the research on stomach cancer is equally concerning. Studies show that people who eat a lot of red meat have a 70% higher risk, and processed red meat bumps it up to 80%.
80%. Those are some pretty scary numbers.
They are. And there's even a connection to head and neck cancers. This huge Dutch study that followed over 120,000 people for 20 years found that those who ate a lot of processed red meat had up to a 50% higher risk compared to those who ate little or no meat.
So it's not just about your heart or your gut, it's affecting your entire body.
Exactly. And the chapter also touches on mental health, specifically depression. They found that eating red and processed meat was linked to a 25% higher risk of depression, while fruits and vegetables seem to have a protective effect.
So what you eat can impact your mental well-being too.
It can, and it can also impact your sexual health. Now, this is something a lot of men are interested in. Dr. Kahn explains how eating red meat can increase levels of something called TMAO, which is linked to clogged arteries.
And clogged arteries definitely aren't good for, well, anything.
You got it. And then there's new 5GC, a sugar molecule found in red meat that our bodies don't really know how to handle, and it can actually damage our arteries.
So it's not just about blood flow, it's about the health of your arteries themselves.
Exactly. Plus, there's the issue of pesticides, hormones, and antibiotics that can be present in meat, and all of that can mess with your hormonal balance and gland function, which obviously isn't good for sexual health.
Now, Dr. Kahn makes a really important point about meat being inherently inflammatory, no matter how the animal was raised.
That's a key takeaway. Red meat has a chemical structure that just naturally promotes inflammation, and that's a driving force behind so many of the conditions we've talked about, like diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer.
So it's not just about factory farming versus grass-fed, it's about the nature of the meat itself.
You got it. And the data is really clear on this. Eating more fruits and vegetables is associated with the lower risk of chronic diseases and living longer, while eating more meat has the opposite effect.
It's a pretty stark contrast.
It is. And based on all of this, Dr. Kahn recommends that men either drastically reduce or completely eliminate red meat, poultry, pork, and even fish from their diets.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, but it's backed by solid science. Now, with all the conflicting nutrition information out there, it can be hard to know what to believe. So, the chapter provides some tools to help you evaluate dietary advice.
Give us some examples.
Well, there's this guy, Dr. Walter Longo, a top researcher in aging and nutrition, who came up with the pillars of longevity. He basically says that to figure out if a diet is truly healthy, you need to look at 4 things.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, there are biochemical studies, which look at how the diet affects your body at a cellular level.
So, like, what's actually happening inside your cells?
Right. Then there are randomized controlled trials, which are considered the gold standard of research because they compare people who follow the diet to people who don't.
So you can see if there's a real difference in outcomes.
Exactly. Then you've got epidemiological research, which looks at large populations of people over long periods to see how their diets affect their health.
So you're looking for patterns and trends.
Right. And finally, you've got studies of centenarians, people who live to be 100 or older, to see what they eat.
So you're learning from the people who've actually lived the longest, healthiest lives.
Exactly. And Dr. Kahn uses the ketogenic diet as an example to show how these pillars can help you evaluate a specific diet.
Okay, so how does keto stack up?
Well, when you look at it through this lens, it doesn't fare so well. The biochemical studies aren't super convincing. The randomized controlled trials show mixed results. The epidemiological research suggests it might actually increase your risk of dying early. And centenarians certainly don't follow a keto diet.
So it's not looking so good for keto.
Not really.
Yeah.
In fact, Dr. Longo himself calls it a fad diet. Now, Dr. Kahn also brings up another brilliant scientist, Dr. Michael Brown, a Nobel laureate, who came up with his own set of criteria called the 4 lines of evidence for evaluating scientific research.
And how do those compare to the pillars of longevity?
Well, they're pretty similar, which just reinforces the idea that there's a consistent way to assess the validity of dietary claims. And when you apply these rigorous standards, the evidence points overwhelmingly towards a diet based on fresh vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains.
The foundations of plant-based eating.
You got it. And to further support this, the chapter goes on to explore the dietary recommendations from some of the most respected medical and scientific organizations in the world.
You know, it's interesting. He starts with the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate, which was developed in 2011 to address some of the limitations of earlier guidelines.
Yeah, like the USDA's My Plate. The Harvard Plate really focuses on the quality of the food you eat, not just the quantity.
So it's not just about calories, it's about nutrients.
Exactly. And they emphasize choosing the right types of carbohydrates, like whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and beans, over refined grains and sugary drinks.
It also recommends healthy oils and doesn't set an upper limit on healthy fats, which is a big shift from the low-fat craze of the past.
Right. And the way they visually represent the plate is really helpful. Half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables, a quarter should be whole grains, and the remaining quarter should be healthy proteins like beans or lean meats.
And they recommend water as the primary beverage instead of milk. It's a pretty clear and concise guide.
It is. And then there's the Eat Lancet Planetary Health Diet, which came out in 2019. This one is really interesting because it takes into account not just human health, but also the environmental impact of our food choices.
So it's about sustainability as well as nutrition.
Exactly. Their main recommendation is to eat more plant-based foods and cut back significantly on red meat, sugar, and refined grains.
That sounds familiar.
It is. And they link this dietary pattern not only to better health outcomes, but also to achieving the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
So it's a win-win for both people and the planet.
It is. And they point out that plant-based foods generally have a much lower environmental footprint than animal agriculture.
So by choosing to eat more plant-based foods, you're actually helping to protect the environment.
You are. And then we have the Australian government's food plate, also from 2019, which was developed by a team of independent experts after reviewing over 1,100 scientific papers.
Wow, that's a lot of research.
It is. Their goal was to promote healthy lifestyles and reduce the risk of chronic diseases.
And what are their recommendations?
Well, they have 5 key guidelines, but the second one specifically emphasizes eating a variety of nutritious foods from 5 core food groups each day, along with drinking plenty of water.
Okay, what are the food groups?
They recommend vegetables and legumes, beans, fruits, grain-based foods, preferably whole grains, lean meat and poultry, fish, eggs, tofu, nuts and seeds, and again, legumes, beans, as well as milk, yogurt, cheese, and or plant-based alternatives.
So pretty similar to the Harvard plate.
It is, and they even give specific examples of how much you should eat from each group. For instance, they recommend 5-6 servings of vegetables and legumes beans per day, which is about 3 cups.
That's a lot of veggies.
It is, but it's good for you. And finally, there's Canada's Healthy Eating Pattern, which came out in 2019. This is a comprehensive resource that focuses on the basics of healthy eating, identifies foods and drinks that can harm your health, and emphasizes the importance of developing food skills.
So it's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat.
Exactly. And they recommend eating plenty of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and protein-rich foods, especially those from plant sources.
Sounds familiar.
It does. And they also advise choosing unsaturated fats over saturated fats.
So more olive oil and less butter.
Right. And interestingly, they don't specifically endorse dairy as a necessary food group.
That's a bit of a departure from traditional guidelines.
It is. And what's really important is that Canada's guidelines are intended for everyone, from healthcare professionals and policymakers to the general public. They can even be used to shape food policies in institutions like hospitals and care homes.
So they have a pretty wide reach.
They do. And what's amazing is that despite all the differences in these guidelines, there's a clear common thread running through them all.
And what's that?
They all emphasize eating mostly whole, plant-based foods and drinking plenty of water for optimal health, both for individuals and for the planet.
It's a pretty powerful message.
It is. And they even offer some simple but effective starting points, like eating a big salad every day, snacking on an apple instead of junk food, and trying out different plant-based protein sources like beans and lentils.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about making gradual changes.
Exactly. Now, one thing that really stood out to me in this chapter is the connection between diet and healthy arteries, which is especially important for men's sexual health.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, did you know that men have about 50,000 miles of arteries in their bodies?
50,000 miles. That's like twice around the Earth.
It is. And the chapter emphasizes the importance of the endothelium, which is the thin layer of cells that lines the inside of your arteries. It's only 1 cell thick, but collectively it weighs about as much as your liver, and it plays a crucial role in maintaining your overall health.
So what does the endothelium do exactly?
Well, it helps regulate blood flow, prevents blood clots, and protects your arteries from damage. And healthy endothelium is not only crucial for good sexual health, but also for overall well-being, longevity, fitness, and preventing heart attacks and strokes.
So it's kind of a big deal.
It is, and certain foods can actually help boost your nitric oxide production, which is essential for a healthy endothelium.
Like what?
Well, leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, and arugula are great sources of dietary nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide.
So eat your greens.
Exactly. Beets and beet greens are also good choices, as well as watermelon, including the rind, rhubarb, pine nuts, whole grains like oats, and garlic and onions.
So lots of colorful fruits and vegetables.
Got it. And then there are polyphenol-rich foods like apples, grapes, berries, stone fruits, and pomegranates, which can also enhance nitric oxide production.
So it's all about eating a diverse and colorful diet.
Absolutely. And in the end, the chapter really drives home the message that the foods that are good for your arteries, blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol are also the foods that support good sexual function and overall vitality.
It's all connected.
It is. And the chapter debunks the myth that men need meat for optimal health, pointing out that this idea is more about lobbying by the meat industry than scientific evidence.
So you don't need to eat meat to be a man.
You don't. And the key takeaway, as the book says, is to learn to love the foods that love you back.
I love that. So what are some practical things men can do to start eating healthier?
Well, the chapter recommends eating a big, colorful salad every day, choosing an apple over a donut when you need a snack, making bean chili instead of beef chili, and trying out different plant-based milks like oat milk and soy milk.
Those are all great ideas.
And if you're worried about social pressure from friends or family who might not be on board with your dietary changes, the chapter suggests simply explaining that you're prioritizing your health by following expert recommendations from places like Harvard Medical School.
So you're not being difficult, you're being health conscious.
Exactly. This deep dive into Chapter 34 of The 21st Century Man has really opened my eyes to the power of plant-based nutrition. It's not about deprivation. It's about embracing a way of eating that can profoundly benefit your health in countless ways.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the key takeaway is that small changes can make a big difference over time. Start by incorporating more fruits, vegetables, and plant-based proteins into your diet and see how you feel. You might be surprised at the positive impact it has on your physical, mental, and even sexual health.
Absolutely. This chapter is full of valuable insights and actionable advice, and I freely recommend that everyone pick up a copy of The 21st Century Man and read it from cover to cover. It's a fantastic resource for men who want to take control of their health and live their best lives.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into plant-based nutrition. Thank you all for joining us on the 21st Century Men podcast today. We hope you found this discussion informative and inspiring.
Be sure to tune in next time when we'll be exploring Chapter 35, Food Allergies. Until then, stay healthy and keep learning.
See you next time.